Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be a really quick overview of the books that I finished recently. There's 2 Agatha Christie novels and 3 mangas, and the Agatha Christie novels are actually ones that I finished a while ago but never got to talk to you about, and I really did like them, so I want to talk about them. And then the mangas are ones that I started and then couldn't, for whatever reason, finish quickly, so I'm finished. Let's talk about them. And the first one is going to be, I got it from my desk, Rurouni Kenshin, the second book. I really like this. I love the character Sanosuke. I think that's how you say it. He's one of my favorites, and I just think he's hilarious. Like, I feel like he was much more of a comedic element in the anime, but he was the comic relief. And I totally get his darker, sadder backstory in this. And I think they do talk about it. I just don't think it stuck with me in the anime, but when I was reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's sad. And I love the exploration of his character more. I'm not going to get into too much of what actually happens in this. If you don't know the Rurouni Kenshin novels, it wouldn't make any sense to you, but basically these 2 are fighting at the beginning. That gets settled, and then there's the bad guy that comes in, and he's trying to push Kenshin to fight and return to his roots as more of a soldier and a killer. And that's the main bad guy for this one. Super good. I like this series a lot. Okay, then this might be kind of a controversial take, but I got Inuyasha and I loved the anime for certain reasons. There's things about the anime that just worked for me. And one of those things is gonna be Sesshomaru, who's not in this first book, huge bummer. I love that character. I might be saying the name wrong. I'll put him here, but obvious. And then there was things that I kind of I remember with anime, I picked it up, stopped, picked it up, wanted to finish it. It was good. I liked it. Overall, very interesting. Not for kids. Let me just remind you, if you've forgotten, that this is not for kids. I definitely had forgotten. And so I'm reading it and I was like, okay, I remember the centipede lady at the beginning. She has no top on and she is definitely a woman. But I did not remember, and I don't think this is in the anime, that when there's a thing of the main girl, Kagome, who kind of gets, I'll explain the story, but she is also topless and it is shown and drawn and detailed. So in the future, who knows, I might just draw little clothes on these people because I'm a mom with 3 kids and I don't want them just what's this? And I don't care if that makes me a prude because they're my books. But yes, just so you know, these are not for kids. I do like them. I like the story. They are violent, they are gory, which I don't mind because it's monsters and I like it. It's fun. So Inuyasha at the beginning is going to be our main half wolf demon, and he thinks he has been betrayed by this woman. And then this is her reincarnation who falls through a well years later and is thrown into this world with these monsters. And all this is to get the Jewel of 4 Souls, or the Shikon Jewel. I'm not saying it right. You get what I'm saying. It's a jewel that is has all this spiritual power and all the demons want it. And she was born with it, and now things are going to happen because of that, and then it kind of moves the story along. Kagome is fine. She's not my favorite. I do prefer her over Kikyo, I think is the other girl. I'll put the name here. Who is the past version of her. And I do like their dynamic. I think it's cute, but it's I think Kagome is 15. And so the nudity to me was very unexpected. But this is a 1997 manga, so maybe they just got away with more then. But I did like it. Good story, fun. Okay, then I finished Attack on Titan Volume 8. And when I tell you that I was definitely over the whole mystery of who the female Titan was, I was over it. But this was cleared up in this one, and thank goodness for that. I will say the mystery, who it was, no spoilers. It was meh to me. I wasn't oh, that blew me away. You hid that so well. I was just kind of oh, okay. And then there's another big reveal towards the end of this volume 8. And I don't know. I wanted more from the big reveal. So I'll just carefully go over the story. So it starts off with them trapping who they believe to be the female Titan, and then there's a battle, and they're trying to get her, and she's basically gonna escape, and they start ripping into the wall, and there's this reveal about the wall, and things, you know, it's like, oh, okay, what are we gonna do now? So I guess spoilers really quick. Spoilers. So Annie is the female Titan. I didn't feel much of a connection to her as a character, so it didn't bother me that she was the female Titan. I feel like it was really good. They had it figured out, and I was ready to be done with her. She like hardens herself into like this like crystalline casing, and then they can't question her. So now what will happen is kind of like for the next book. And then the big reveal about the wall is that there are actually Titans inside the wall. And they don't know why or how, or they can't be exposed to sunlight, assuming that like that's what wakes them up. We're just assuming that because it's not explicitly said, but there's just the Titans living, fortifying the wall. And there's this also they're starting to bring in this like religious sect that kind of like worships the wall. So you have like that weirdness that they always know there were Titans in there, like what's really going on. I will say I want to continue, but I'm past the point of getting these for Kindle Unlimited. They only go up to volume 8. So I'll definitely have to go slowly if I'm buying them myself. But I do like this series, and I definitely want to continue. So that was Attack on Titan volume 8. Okay, now we're going to talk about my Agatha Christie books. So we have N or M, which is a Tommy and Tuppence novel. And Tommy and Tuppence are going to be our like detective kind of couple. They're not detectives. They, at one point, I believe, run kind of an agency that's like a bunch of short stories. So I guess they kind of are, but not. They're like private investigators. And they're married. In this point in the story, they are middle-aged, which I appreciate. I love Agatha Christie writing older characters and giving them like, you know, I just love that for like Poirot and Miss Marple and Tommy and Tuppence, like people age. And she definitely is going over how they had this big part in the First World War. They were very like, they were young, they were, you know, doing stuff, they were spies and all this stuff, you know, working with the government. Now the Second World War is happening, and they are feeling very sidelined. They're older, both of their kids are helping with the war effort, and they want to feel like they can do something. And their kids don't know. That's like, you know, they're hearing stories about when they were young and they did all this stuff with the government. They're like, oh, that's cute. Like, you guys are old now. Like, just sit back and let us young people do this. And as someone, you know, I'm 38, like I was like, listen, this is how kids are. So they decide, or they get brought in, Tommy gets brought in to help with a case because they believe that there's 2 German spies that have infiltrated, you know, the system, and they're going to try and bring it, you know, some kind of horrible event about. They don't even know, they just know N and M are the 2 like people, and they believe one is a man and one is a woman. And it's like pretty much all that they give him to go off of. So Tommy's told at the beginning, like, it's just you, we just want to recruit you. And Tuppence is like, as if. And I love her for that because she would not leave him. She knows that they work best as a team, and he completely agrees. So he gets sent, and she of course follows, and then they work together as a team. So I like this book. I think that the strong point is Tommy and Tuppence and their relationship, how they're able to help each other out, how they're able to be supportive of each other, and then they can solve things together. I definitely think it's a fun one. You know, it's like a fun mystery. There are like murders and things that happen along the way, and obviously they're trying to find out who these people are. They basically are sent to like an inn that people are passing through, and they think that someone who's associated with this inn is one of these agents. So that's where the story is going. And of course later, it's super cute whenever Tommy and Tuppence talk to their kids, and their kids are like, how are you doing? Are you sad that you're not more involved? Like, it's okay that you're old. Like, and they're like actually helping with the war effort, but of course it's all secrets, and they should be like, yeah, I've learned knitting now. Like, this is my life and I'm okay with it. And I think it's great. Okay, so finally I read There Is a Tide. This is a Hercule Poirot novel. And there's a I think the newer versions are called Taken at the Flood, because this whole book starts off with, and I'll read it really quick. There is a tide in the affairs of men, which taken at the flood leads on to fortune. I won't read the whole thing, but that's part of, I believe, Shakespeare. So that's what this is based off of, like the title. And I like it. It's not my favorite Poirot novel, but I will say this was one that had some like very negative reviews because of something that happens at the end that doesn't really have much to do with the mystery. But this starts off with Poirot hearing some salacious gossip at a club, and it's about Gordon Claude, I believe is how you say his last name, who may or may not have married a young widow who wasn't really a widow, whose husband might still be alive somewhere. And it's kind of like, ooh, okay, whatever. And then later, he hears that Gordon died in the war, in the Blitz, as they say, and that all of his fortune went to this young widow. So we're going on from there. And then they kind of take Poirot out of the story, and we go to Gordon's family, all of whom, sadly for them, were kind of living off of his generosity. And he was taking care of them. He had basically told all of them, like, I will always care for you. I will always provide for you. Like, I have money and you don't, and that's okay. Like, don't make plans, don't invest. You can always rely on my money. Well, then he got married to this very young woman, very like pretty, you know, whatever, like the stereotype that we all are thinking of. And he died. And so she has all of his money and they have nothing. And they're kind of just living, you know, like barely making it, trying to all survive now that they are cut out of the will, because they all relied on his generosity and his money, and they all thought, this is a well that will never run dry. Sadly, they're not bad people. They're just people who had something that was unexpectedly taken from them. And I think that the book, you know, there's a point one of the characters is constantly trying to make that like they're leeches and they're bad, but it wasn't really them. You know, like they didn't go to Gordon. He would come to them and say, hey, let me take care of you. Let me do this for you. And whether that's right or wrong, they were really just going off of what he was telling them. Of course, you should always plan for the future. Like that's the smart thing. But they weren't doing it out of like these bad intentions of taking advantage of him. They really all wanted, you know, to do stuff and to succeed in their careers, but they always had him as a backup and now they don't. So I won't go over all the different people. There's like a niece, brother, you know, like all these different people. But the main character is going to be like the new wife and her brother who are coming, you know, they've taken over everything and now they're being dealt with. And the brother is super hostile to the family. Like, my sister has the money now. You all are leeches. You didn't deserve it. We're poor. We just, you know, we got the money now and we really did deserve it. It's a very odd like dynamic. It's very eat the rich, which I felt was very weird because none of them are rich. And he has like that whole, but I was like, I feel like it was a very, like, it would have worked very well for today because it was very antagonistic against wealthy people when he's just come into all this money and now they're like poor. So take of that what you will. It was just very interesting the way that was written. And I thought like his character, I like didn't like him at all. and I felt like very like off put by him, but there's not a lot of like amazing characters in the story. And then of course Poirot is brought back in at the end to kind of wrap things up and, you know, what was the mystery? Because there's the mystery of whether or not Gordon Claude, whether he was married this widow, whether she was actually a widow. So it's like, okay, well, is her husband still alive somewhere? And then there's a blackmail incident that happens with someone claiming to be this dead husband, or is he really alive? And then there's murders that happen along the way, and then Poirot comes in and wraps it up. It's fine. I will give a quick spoiler about what really made people mad about the end of this book. So if you want to hear that, stick around. If not, you can just end with, I recommend it. The ending didn't bother me. Okay, so let me just say, for the date that I'm seeing, and I could be wrong, but I'll put it here if I'm wrong, 1948 is the date I'm seeing for the publication of this book. So let me just say that modern sensibilities will not be applied well to this. The ending is, you cannot look at it as the kind of more feminist view that you may take of something that is from today. There is a character in this book who is in love with somebody and she makes a lot of bad decisions. Okay, so she comes back from the war effort. She's young. I'm just going to go over this really quickly just because this was a big, like, people really didn't like this book for this reason. She is young. She comes back. She's been engaged to this guy from like a long time and they're going to run the farm together now that she's back. But she was doing like very important things in the war effort. She felt very needed. She felt very like, oh, I'm important now. And I don't know how I can go back to a farm and just be a farmer's wife. And he kind of was like feeling that she's kind of pulling away and it makes him sad, whatever. So then she meets the brother of the new, you know, widow who's got all the money. And he's like dangerous and he's got this like edge to him. And so she's not making the best life choices. And quite frankly, like, spoiler, he's the bad guy. Like, he's the murderer. And but she's all about it. Like, she's about to elope with him. So her, like, current guy that she's engaged to finds out that she's going to elope. And he, like, goes to choke her. He's so enraged that she would, leave him for this guy who he basically thinks is terrible and, like, a rake and awful. And of course he doesn't. Like, Pro comes in and is like, yo, what are you doing? Like, and I know you're enraged and, like, this is not who you are, like, back off. And then they've solved the whole thing. Okay, so at the end, she tells the guy, hey, when you told me, like, when you attacked me and told me, like, you weren't gonna let me go and I could only be with you, like, that made me want to stay with you. And let's get married and let's run the farm together. Okay, so that's what happens. That's the ending for her story. But if you were to read the comments and, like, the Goodread reviews, people were very angry that she didn't leave him and go pursue a career somewhere. And I was like, okay, back then, and I think the whole point of her character is she is impulsive. She makes very poor decisions. She is running with her feelings. She is like that, like, throughout the story. That's why she's drawn to the murderer. And she wants that danger because she was in the war and she felt something. And so I don't know that we can make her like this feminist hero of, like, oh, she should have wanted more. It's like, no, she was like, hey, I can have danger right here. Like, look at the farm. Like, look what he was willing to do to keep me. To me, that's how I read that character. Not like, oh, she really wanted a career. It was just she really wanted danger and she really wanted excitement. And she felt like, oh, hey, I can have it here now. So it didn't bother me. If it's something that you feel like you can't get past, skip this book. There are lots of other Agatha Christie books that don't have characters like that. But yeah, it didn't bother me. So that's my little spoiler for the ending. Just because I read the, like, reviews and I was shocked. I was like, why is this book rated so low? Agatha Christie usually has pretty high ratings, but people have feelings about it and that's okay. So those are all the books that I read recently. I'm filming in a different space. As you can see, I don't know why I didn't say that at the beginning, but you can tell it's different. And I'm just trying to find the best spot to get all my stuff done. The bottom shelf here is a mess. And that's where all the books that need to be sorted will eventually go. So don't worry, I will get to it. Let me know if you have any books that you've read recently that you loved, or anything that for you is a, like, definite no in a book that you're like, no, once that happens, I'm jumping off. There's something you can't get past. Tell me in the comments and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye.